Welcome back to Show and Tell. I'm Billy. As you can see, I love vintage jewelry, vintage sweaters, but every so often the projects that I undertake are so daunting that even an experienced knitter like myself wants to pull her hair out of her head. If you've been following this channel for a while, you'll know that I have a variety of projects that I bring back from time to time and show you my progress. And I recount how they've been in timeout, they've been languishing for one reason or another. And I'm just betting that every single person watching today has encountered a similar situation. They ran out of yarn, they encountered some situation that presented a difficulty for them that they didn't know how to fix, a skill that they just didn't have, whatever it is. There's probably as many reasons as there are people watching. So it occurred to me that it might be really fun and really productive to organize a knit along, but a different type of knit along than the knit alongs I've done in the past. This knit along I would call the UFO KAL, for each person to bring their own unfinished object. I know it's lurking in the back of a closet or at the bottom of a bin somewhere. Bring it. You don't have to start working on it. Just bring it to a Zoom call and we will crowdsource solutions for you. At the very least, you'll have a lot of moral support. If you've run out of yarn, well, I do have some options I'll be able to offer. That's a tricky one. But a lot of the other things are just, I got bored with it, or you know what I'm trying to say. There's so many reasons. I can't even get into your head to think of what your reason is. But I'd like to invite you. If you're interested in participating in something like this, it's going to be on Thursday nights, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time, US. So if you're in a faraway time zone, it's probably not going to work for you, but if there's enough interest, I would do it on a weekend when more people could participate. But for now, I'm selecting that because I figure some people may have Thursday night free. The Zoom link will be in the show notes. I can put it on the screen, but it's going to be long and complicated. So better to look for it in the show notes. I will also pin it in the comments. So it will be the first comment that you see. The first date I'd like to try this out is Thursday, June 18th, 7:30 Eastern. All you have to do to register is in the comments below, just type the letters RSVP and I'll know that you're planning to join us. Having said that, yes, I am making progress on one of my UFOs. Don't worry, I have others that I'll bring to the party. But the one that I've been talking about most recently, and I'm really on a mission to finish since I started it in May 2022. I went to Shetland that fall with my original version that I was knitting, that I had done in stranded knitting like this, but with a different yarn, a heavier yarn, and my fabric ended up being incredibly stiff. If you haven't seen me talk about it or haven't heard me talk about it before, it was stiff as cardboard. I just couldn't put it on. I ripped the entire sweater out and began reknitting it in 2023. But I got sick of it. I got bored with it. I put it away. And every so often I would bring it out, and I really had a hard time getting back into the rhythm of doing this complicated pattern. Let me grab the back of it, which is currently being blocked, and I have my blocking board handy. 1 second. If you've been here before, you may have seen all the strands that were hanging in the back. In a moment, I'll put this down and I'll show you the inside of the sleeves, which still have all those strands. I haven't woven them in yet because I'm not done the sleeves. This is the back. It's the first piece that I'm blocking, and I'll show it to you up close. I'm pretty pleased with how it looks, and the fabric is blacking out really nicely. It's thin. It's not as thin as this, but it's pretty thin. This is a fingering weight yarn. It's John Arbon Knit by Numbers, and I'm on a size 2 needle, I believe. Um, so in a lot of places, it's a single thickness, which is why it's able to be so thin. You can't imagine how happy I am. Ecstatic might be the correct word that I've come this far. This is the front of the sweater, not yet blocked. So you can sort of see that, it's not stiff. It's certainly not stiff like when I did it stranded. I'll show you the back of this because I have woven in the ends at this point. This is as good as it's going to be. It's not perfect looking, but in time, I'm hoping that this stuff will felt in and smooth out. There's nothing that you could catch your fingernail on. I watched somebody this morning who does a lot of intarsia, and she said never ever combine it with stranded. But because of the nature of this motif, that there was this little point and this little point, I didn't want to have a separate bobbin for this and a separate bobbin for that. So this little section, I just carried the red across. I didn't always do that, but by and large I did because probably the things this woman is knitting wouldn't involve so many bobbins. This is a 34 row repeat. Most of the rows involve only 2 colors, but there are 4 rows that involve all 3 colors. On those rows, I might have one for brown, 2, 3, 4 for the red, 5, 6, 7 for the red, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. I might have had more than a dozen bobbins swinging from this thing. After a while of doing it, I learned to manage them better. I'm not done with the sweater yet. I am still working on the sleeves, which I'm knitting 2 at a time. Here they are, separated. Uh, Here's the type of bobbin that I use. So when this one is not going to be in use for a while, I can wrap the yarn around it and bring it so close to the needle that this can't get tangled around maybe the one right next to it, but this is not going to get tangled around 6 other bobbins. The trick is keep them close to the needle so they stay put. And I don't think this woman who's some like Intarsia expert was doing that. She didn't have this type of bobbin. She had some makeshift little cardboard thing. And I don't think she was keeping them this close. They were dangling longer so that they could all get tangled. Oh, correct. Who would want to deal with that? No one. She just left her strands like, long. And when she ran out, she would add another piece of yarn in, which, yeah, you could do. But if she had this many ends to weave in, I don't think she'd want to do that. And this is mild because all of this is just plain ribbing, one color. But, the front and the back of the sweater, it was this times 100. I showed you last time. Go back and watch that episode if you didn't see it. I had a mound of ends that I cut off that were like the size of a football, and I'm not done. I'm still going to have all of these ends. After I weave them in, there's still little bits that need to be cut. So anyway, this is probably the most complicated thing I've done, and certainly it's spanned the most number of years. So don't be embarrassed if you have something that you haven't worked on for 5, 10 years, whatever. Bring it, and we will support you as a group, and you will get it done. Any of the knit-alongs I've done where we're all knitting on the same sweater, which, by the way, I do have another one planned for October. Information about it can be found in the link in the show notes. I will put a picture somewhere next to me here of what that sweater is if you want to join in. When I do a knit-along like that, we're all knitting the same sweater at the same time. This is not that. This is, we're all going to be Zooming together at the same time and Other people will be able to watch it because it will be out there on YouTube. You'll be able to go back and look at it again and again, but we will support one another. And I have to say, if there's some situation where perhaps it's a technique that you just don't know how to do, maybe I can demonstrate if I myself know how to do it. There are, believe it or not, things I don't know. Hello. I'm not going to lie about that. So this is finally, after years, coming together. Okay, there's no finished objects this week. That's what I'm really working on, kind of monogamously. I do go back to the pink sweater very, very rarely. But I do have an acquisition this week. Once again, my girlfriend Sabina, she comes through. She brought to our weekly knitting circle a huge box of buttons, and everybody picked out the buttons that they wanted. I don't happen to need anything at the moment, but she kept these on the side for me because she knows that I'm the vintage lover. Okay, I'll try and get a photo of these. They're like Dorset buttons in miniature, and it's with thread, not yarn. And there's a bunch of them. Some of these buttons are just like very plain fabric covered button, like off a man's Victorian shirt. There's a few of them like that. And they have little metal, I don't know what you call it, like a grommet, where you would sew through. But there's a variety like this. So what am I planning to do with these, you might wonder? Well, remember that handkerchief project? One of my many UFOs? I think that'll be very pretty with the vintage hankies that I have, just interspersed, maybe some at the neckline. I don't know where I'll put them, but I think it has the right vibe for that, which is going to be very flowy, sheer, summer top for days like today, where how hot is it? It's 84 right now, but it's going to be a scorcher. It's going up to 90. What am I wearing? Well, a vintage necklace that was left to me by a friend of mine who passed away recently. It's got some marcasites and I don't know, this is like carved glass. She had also given me these while she was still with us. She had so much stuff. Anyway, so vintage necklace, and this is the Jeannie that took me 4.5 months to knit a number of years ago. It's from one of Susan Crawford's books, although it is a pattern that she sells individually. So you can go back and watch me jabber on about that. I'll leave a link up here so you can find some of those back episodes. I probably have some culture stuff from my last week or so that I'll put at the end, but there's one more thing I want to share with you before I say goodbye, which is about the cardigan. I came across an article in some online history magazine that I wanted to share with you today about how the cardigan got its name. The cardigan was a result of the Crimean War. This is an article written by someone named Bess Lovejoy. In the mid-19th century, a disastrous cavalry charge gave the world one of its coziest wardrobe staples. The cardigan sweater takes its name from James Thomas Brudenell, 7th Earl of Cardigan, a British Army officer who commanded the Light Brigade during the Crimean War, most famously at the charge of the Light Brigade, a catastrophic assault brought on by muddled orders and poor communication. The charge, launched at the Battle of Balaclava in October 1854, sent British cavalry straight into heavy Russian artillery fire. The results, heavy losses, but also the destruction of a Russian battery, became a symbol of both extraordinary bravery and military blunder. The event was immortalized in Alfred Lord Tennyson's famous poem, The Charge of the Light Brigade. Cardigan himself emerged physically unscathed and somewhat improbably became a national celebrity. That celebrity helped turn his preferred knitwear into a fashion trend. According to contemporary accounts, the Earl was frequently seen wearing a collarless, button-front wool jacket, which was practical for the bitter Crimean cold. It's often said he either popularized or helped develop the garment for his troops, and when Cardigan returned to Britain, the public's fascination with the hero of balaclava extended to his clothing. The snug sweater became known as a cardigan, cementing the Earl's name in everyday language, even as his reputation as a commander remained deeply controversial. Interestingly, the word cardigan has military connections that go even farther back. Cardigan is a place name in Wales, an anglicization of the Welsh, I don't know the pronunciation, Cardigan, which literally means Caradog's land. Caradog was a legendary chieftain of North Britain who is said to have pushed back an Irish invasion of Wales in the 5th century CE and received the aforementioned land as a reward. In other words, every time you button up a cardigan, you're wrapping yourself in layers of military history. Okay, look for the few little things I'll tack on here. I do my culture corner at the end, and I will see you next time. Bye.
The joy and the beauty, I think, comes from the process. So in that vein, what I wanted to speak about was something that all of you can maybe take away from this if you can't afford a $3,500 painting. Well, most of you have come here tonight because you watch my videos. And it's the small things in my everyday that have given me such a sense of meaning in life. And they are the things that people probably wouldn't believe if I told them those things sitting next to them in a bar. Do you know I made my bed this morning and the sun was shining in so beautifully on my pillow that I had to stop and stare at it? Does that sound real? Well, you know that it's real because you watch the videos, and I just fell into this. I didn't expect to be making YouTube videos, but the joy and the thrill has been through this medium. I have been able to, instead of tell you, I show you. And I show you how I think we can change our lives. What is talent? Like, are you really just born with this thing that enables you to paint and make pottery? I know from experience that it's not really talent. The ability to paint these things isn't something that I was just born with. It's hours and hours and hours of critical thinking and finding the right teacher and practice and being discerning. And it's not really a talent, it is a skill. And a skill is something that all of you can acquire, but it takes patience and it takes dedication. It takes the right kind of person showing you how to do it properly. And then it takes extremely, sometimes excruciatingly, hard work. That is my life. To show you where this all started, I brought my early sketchbooks that I consider like there's garbage in here. But I really wanted you to see where it started before I found a teacher to really show me how to use the medium when I started playing, which is where I think everything should start.